There is a silent lie that destroys more destinies than failure ever could. The belief that you are lazy. It whispers when the alarm goes off and you postpone. It shows up when the project remains half finished. It tightens its grip when you know exactly what should be done and still don't do it. Lack of discipline, lack of focus, lack of willpower. But what if that diagnosis is wrong? The human brain was not engineered for constant productivity. It evolved for survival. The psychologist Daniel Kahneman demonstrated that we default to fast, energy-efficient mental processes. Deep thinking consumes metabolic resources. Decision-making fatigues neural circuits. Change introduces uncertainty. Conserving energy is not a moral flaw. It is biological strategy. You see this in daily life with uncomfortable clarity. You intend to train, but the body negotiates for the couch. You plan to study, but your phone becomes gravitational. You decide to begin something meaningful, yet reorganize your desk instead. This is not incompetence. It is cost aversion. The brain interprets effort as potential threat for most of human history. Uncertainty meant danger, so it manufactures sophisticated rationalizations. I'll do it later. Now isn't ideal. I need to feel inspired, not laziness, misapplied self-preservation. Behavioral science describes a related phenomenon called hyperbolic discounting. We overweight immediate comfort and undervalue long-term reward. Repeated comfort hardens into stagnation. Prolonged stagnation crystallizes into identity. First you postpone actions, then you adopt the label of someone who postpones. There is a critical distinction between being lazy and being energy protective. The first is a fixed identity. The second is an adaptive mechanism. Mechanisms can be redesigned. Consider something revealing. When a deadline becomes real when consequences are. Immediate execution happens. Energy appears. Focus sharpens. Output materializes. The supposed laziness vanishes. That exposes an uncomfortable truth. You are not incapable. You simply have not perceived sufficient urgency or sufficient meaning. The brain prioritizes three variables. Avoid pain. Seek immediate reward. Conserve energy. Any goal that fails to address these will be quietly undermined. So the operative question is not how do I stop being lazy? The precise question is how do I reduce the immediate cost of action and increase its perceived reward? Micro actions lower friction. Environment shapes behavior. Public commitment raises perceived stakes. This is not motivational rhetoric. It is behavioral architecture. Energy conservation is intelligent. The danger emerges when it governs your entire trajectory. You do not need more guilt. You need structural strategy. You do not need harsher self-judgment. You need lower friction between intention and execution. What you call laziness may simply be a survival mechanism operating in a world that no longer requires physical survival, yet demands relentless output.
The label you accepted without noticing.
They called you lazy too early. At school, when you took longer than the others. At home, when you didn't respond with the expected enthusiasm. At work, when your pace didn't match collective urgency. The label was repeated so often it stopped sounding like an opinion and started feeling like a diagnosis. But something is fundamentally wrong with that accusation. The human brain does not operate like an industrial machine. It functions as a resource management system. The psychologist and behavioral economist Daniel Kahneman demonstrated that the mind defaults to low-effort cognitive pathways. Thinking requires metabolic energy. Deciding drains it. Initiating something new consumes even more energy. Biologically speaking, has always been scarce. For thousands of years, wasting energy could mean death. Running unnecessarily led to exhaustion. Risking without calculation reduced survival odds. Conservation was not weakness. It was evolutionary intelligence. Now examine your daily life. You delay starting an important project. You avoid a difficult conversation. You promise to change habits and don't. The automatic explanation is moral. I'm lazy. The structural explanation is different. Your brain is calculating cost. Every behavior follows an invisible equation, perceived effort, plus emotional risk plus delayed reward. If the immediate cost outweighs the future benefit, the system hesitates, not because you are incapable, because you are protecting resources. Notice something unsettling when the deadline becomes real, when consequences are concrete. When loss feels immediate, you act, energy appears, discipline emerges, execution happens. Where was laziness then? It was never there. What existed was insufficient urgency. Insufficient meaning, insufficient tangible consequence. The deeper problem is this: over time, you did not just postpone tasks. You began to believe postponement defines you. First the behavior, then the narrative, finally the identity. This is the inflection point. You are not fighting laziness. You are confronting an automatic energy conservation mechanism operating in a world that demands sustained, abstract effort. As long as you treat it as a character flaw, you will never address the actual architecture behind it. This is the beginning of disruption. It is not about forcing yourself harder. It is about understanding the system quietly governing your decisions. In the next chapter, we examine how your environment manipulates your energy allocation and why willpower alone almost never prevails.